We Who Bring a Saving Message by Mark Glovin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Red River Unitarian Universalist Church. I feel blessed to serve this healing and holy congregation. I'm so glad to see all of you here today on this brand new morning in this brand new world as we gather together in peace. Thank you for joining us, we who bring a teaching of hope, we who bring a saving message, who welcome all in our doors, the joyful, the heartbroken, atheists and Christians, Muslims and Jews, straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, all who are searching, seeking, looking for more meaning, more service, more love. All of us gathered here together to walk each other home. I'd like to welcome any guest we have today or later viewing our video. Thank you for taking a chance and taking the time to walk through our doors and join us for worship. As is our custom, if you would like to come and light a candle for whatever personal or private reason, please do so while we sit in stillness, listening to the prelude. Please stand in body of spirit for our chalice lighting and spoken affirmation. We light our chalice this morning with words by Gordon B. McKinnon. Let there be light. Let it shine in dark places, in moments of pain, in times of grief, in the darkness of hatred, violence, oppression, where there is discouragement and despair. Wherever darkness is to be put to flight, let there be light. Please join me as together we remind ourselves of the affirmation that is a cornerstone of our free faith tradition. The words, should you need them, are in the morning program. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. Our opening thought this morning is by Linda Susan Ulrich. Open up the doors. Push on the looming wooden arches, embroidered with ironwork. Brace shoulders against the weight of history, unmoved. Slough off the musty smell of unused joy and stored up sorrow. Knock rust off the hinges if you have to, and let your breath precede you inside. Open the doors more. Make room for a shaft of sunlight to cross the threshold. Give the dust motes something to dance about. Peek through a single slice of possibility and name even the half-hidden truths you see. Open the doors wider. Pour yourself through the gap. Strut or sneak or slide as suits you best. Cleanse whatever scrapes catch your skin, and bind up the wounds and keep you from entering whole. Open the doors as far as they will go. Draw on the strength of the stones beneath you. Ground yourself in a firm sense of who you are. Stand as a beacon welcoming the next seeker, and shine far beyond the lintel and seal. Open all that you are. Heighten and deepen your connections to the world around you. Broaden your definition of neighbor. Grow into the largest target for grace that you can muster, and pray to become a gateway for even greater love and compassion. Open up the doors, my friends, lest we keep the stranger out and condemn ourselves to prisons of our own making. Our first song this morning is We'll Build a Land. From Eugene Pickett's 1984 UUA Presidential Report, found in Jack Mendelsohn's book, Being Liberal in an Illiberal Age. During my growing up years in a small village in Maryland, the local Methodist church was central in my life. But in my high school years, questions and doubts about my religious beliefs began to surface. Feelings of isolation began to grow, for there was no one with whom I could share my yearning and searching. My high school and early college days and my time in the Navy were deeply lonely times. I still recall with painful intensity those early months in the Navy when I was just 18, frightened and alone. At the end of the day, I would crawl into my bunk and pull the blankets over my head and pray that God or someone would help me in my loneliness. Then I would cry myself to sleep, fearful that someone in the nearby bunk would hear me. Praying didn't seem to help, but I think the crying did. How much I needed someone to share my religious search. How great was my need for someone to care. The need for a supportive and searching religious community has never left me. That, in part, is why I became a minister. That, in part, is why I am committed to building a strong Unitarian Universalist movement. Words for our practices today come from Jessica York. Gird thyself. This is not a prayer that you may find hope, for hope is a luxury that some cannot find and others cannot afford. This is not a prayer that you find more love in the world. Though I hope you continue to feel love and send love to those near and far, I pray instead that you may find tools, a hammer lying half hidden in the grass, a roll of duct tape curled up and forgotten on a high shelf in the back of the closet, a wrench poking out of the back pocket of a stranger. Take these tools and gird thyself, a hammer for justice, duct tape to hold together your broken heart, a wrench to grip and provide advantage in applying torture to turn objects or turn the world. Take these tools and others you may find in places expected and unexpected. Take these tools and gird thyself, for weeping may last through the night, but the work begins in the morning. Please join me in a time of silence, which will be followed by a musical response.
trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place. When we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, yeah, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place, then our heart is in a holy place, then our heart is in a holy place.
Our next reading is from the May 12, 1899 address by Daniel Christian Limbaugh to those interested in forming a Unitarian church in Dallas. The time has come in the history of Dallas when a broad and liberal Christianity should be declared here. Many souls are hungering and thirsting for religious knowledge, truth, and righteousness. To them, the old dogmas, doctrines, and creeds appear outgrown. These persons are at sea without a charted compass, and many are making shipwrecks of their religious natures. The old creeds seem to them unworthy of the character of God, the nature of man, and the highest conception of human duty and destiny. We need a liberal platform which does no violence to religion, but which, while perfectly rational, is at the same time expressive of the highest conception of a life of spirituality. Daniel Polk will be talking to us today in our free pulpit about why does the world need Unitarian Universalism. You may read his bio in the morning program.
Good morning. Why does the world need Unitarian Universalism? Years ago, Jenny Corder, who was then moderator of the UUA, asked this at a workshop. And I thought, dagnabbit, there's a sermon I have to go write. But I was a Toastmaster, so I first did a redirect and answer a different question. Why do I need UUism? Well, let me tell you. I need to be able to question everything, even if I don't expect answers. I need a place to be a relaxed agnostic. Don't have many answers. I'm not too worried about it either. I need the affirmation also of my entire fabulous self. I left the Presbyterian Church as a teenager and wandered for a decade before I was ready to find this faith community. I was anti-church, but I still wanted to be part of the institution. When I walked into First Church in Dallas, I knew that I had come home. So that's my answer in a nutshell. As for you, why do you need Unitarian Universalism? While you ponder that, I'll ask about the larger society. Why does the world? Why does our country? Why do Texas and Oklahoma need our good news? Why does Grayson County need UUism? Why does Denison need our message? Durant, Sherman, and Colbert, Pottsboro, Kingston, Van Alstyne. One part of my answer is that our 7 principles have been under siege. The inherent worth and dignity of every person, well, between various bathroom bills, chipping away at civil rights, voter disenfranchisement, transgender people being murdered, not everyone's being respected. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, ditto. Acceptance to one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. We usually do okay with each other, but what about the general public? Have you listened to a talk show lately? What about social media discussions? Just try reading the comments when someone posts something semi-provocative. Number 4 is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. With what's been happening in state and federal budgets for education, local school boards, the state of things at federal agencies, we should be alarmed. The right of conscience and use of democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. Have you seen the news lately? Oh, and there is that election thing. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. I don't know about you, but it looks to me like some people, along with governments and corporations, are working against that goal. Number 7, respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. I don't know about you, but sometimes it feels a bit lonely in that web. More answer. We need to be a home for religious liberals of all theologies, for atheists and pagans and those in between or on the edges, and we need to be a voice for liberal religion to add our perspective to the community dialogue. We need to be there for people who are marginalized. Black Lives Matter has reminded us racism is alive and well, and Jim Crow has just gone high-tech. The Me Too movements remind us that sexism hasn't gone away. LGBTQ people remind us that there are whole new issues. Coming out is so much earlier than back in my day. The substance and suicide rates are still high, much higher. Homeless youth are 40% of the general population of, or 40% of homeless youth are the queer community. And then a study a couple years ago found that incarcerated young adults are twice as likely to be LGBTQ. Reproductive justice. What's right now before the Supreme Court, we know about that. But there's a saying, nobody's safe when the Texas Ledge is in session. And there are always bills coming up, along with a bathroom bill or two, right? But we have an investment in that. Roe v. Wade started at my home congregation, First Church Dallas. We have stake in that, right, Amy? Amy's mother was one of the 7 women who started this. Environmental justice. There's a lot of work to do. Our whole lives. Our sexuality classes, sexuality education, it's more than just sex ed for all our youth and older folks, for the neighborhood kids and young adults, and in community centers, because we know that abstinence only simply doesn't work. So much we could do, but OWL specifically is something we do so well. And time for a story. You know, if you know me, you know I like to tell stories. Years ago, not too many years ago, there was an 8th grader at First Church Dallas who had taken the OWL class, or was taking OWL. 13 years old, remember 8th grade? While taking OWL, he found out that being gay or lesbian did not mean that you just sold donuts on Sunday morning. 8th grader. So how do we build this church to be there for our neighbors? You're doing a pretty good job on stewardship, so I'll save that for another time. Instead, let's consider what our North Texas congregations could be and could do. Some background. NTUUC, North Texas Unitarian Universalist Congregations, started in 1969 building affordable housing. Back then, the name was North Texas Association of Unitarian Universal Societies. You see why I got rid of 5 syllables there? We can say it in one name, one breath now. It actually wasn't started with noble aims, but there was a builder who knew about this federal program with subsidies, and he needed a nonprofit to front the organization. So we were a front, not necessarily the noble aims, but it was for a good purpose and good results. We were the HUD's ideal, Housing and Urban Development. Rabel Place was the ideal. One of 2 places in the country that embodied the ideas behind the legislation. We were the model when HUD went to talk to programs in other parts of the country. Ours was the reference. We had on-site healthcare workers, social worker, we had parenting and GED classes. It was the first integrated housing apartments in North Texas. Ours was the ideal. But there was a lot of fraud in the program. It didn't last very long. After 6 years, it was done. About 20 years ago, the program was over. There were no more subsidies. It was a good time for us to sell the property. We sold. We got in the stock market at a good time. And we used that income now to support our fund, our budgets, our program work, our grants to congregations, so that money still does good work. We've been in a strategic planning process lately, so one of the questions we were asked, if NTUUC is successful, how will North Texas be different in 25, 50, or 100 years? Part of my answer is it would be more just, more loving, and more sustainable. Just. We are called to be anti-oppression, to fight the isms and phobias in society. We've made some progress in our own institutions. But justice work takes both social action and community service. The latter is helping neighbors in need, while the former, we do that to reduce the need in the first place. Social action can be running a marathon. Changing attitudes and laws takes a long time. But community service provides immediate reward. But you know, if we don't work on why people need to go to a food bank, we're going to be doing that work for decades to come. City Square Dallas is one organization I like that works on both of these. They fight the causes and effects of poverty. We have to do both. To be more loving, not just a Pollyanna embrace of everyone or mushy sentiments you might find on a cheap Valentine, but love rooted in our principles. When friends or neighbors are abused, sometimes we need to be fierce in that love. Another story, the Fort Worth Pride Parade, the protesters get vicious over there. They get mean, nasty, and personal. I shut down a protester a few years ago. I shut her down. She gave up and went away. You want to know how I did that? At the parade, she's going along with her sign, and the kids are yelling at her, saying, telling her to shut up. And I went up to them and said, "Be quiet. This is just what she wants. Be quiet. Don't argue with her. That's just feeding her. Be quiet. Leave her alone." They did. She looks at me I realize I just caught a tiger by the tail. What do I do? Okay? This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. The kids join in. She gave up, went away. Quote from Dr. King, "Power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love." Sustainable. If we had a more sustainable planet, first of all, caring for planet Earth should be a no-brainer, but also, is it sustainable economically for people to live? Is it sustainable housing and education? All those other questions. And what else could NTUUC be? Some more of my answer. A beacon of liberal religion. We need to let people know about our good news and our life-saving message. But a big advertising campaign, I don't know that that would be money well spent, especially if congregation is struggling. This one's not particularly struggling, but if a congregation is, people come in at a few at a time, they don't see a healthy congregation, they're not likely to stay. Besides, what is the most common reason people join a church? Somebody invited them to visit. Okay, so you have an assignment. A catalyst. We could be a catalyst for the growth of Unitarian Universalism. College is a time of exploration for many people, and I would love to see us invest in campus ministry. There are several models with a range of cost. So not too much money, or if we had lots of money. But congregation and support is also important, not just money. We could also help seminaries and theological students. And this is important because, one, it's expensive, and two, we're in a wave of retiring ministers. There's a shortage of clergy, and it's not going to end anytime soon. Finally, we could be a catalyst for social justice. And you know what? Strong social action can be good advertising. We got our start and our endowment fund from housing. Building another Rabel place may not be feasible, but we could look at helping specific populations like homeless youth. Perhaps we partner with established groups, or if you want to really look at this, our congregation in Olympia, Washington was the lead founder of a tiny village of tiny houses called Quixote Village. I could talk about that later. We could teach OWL everywhere. We know abstinence only doesn't work, and OWL is one of the best curriculum options in the country. What if we help to teach it at community centers, private schools? Everywhere. I describe OWL as inclusive, comprehensive, and non-judgmental. And I tell the parents, it shows and names everything. Finally, what if we were recognized as a unified body of servant leaders? Servant leadership is when people are more focused on what they bring to an organization than what they take from it. With all these possibilities in mind, let's look at some numbers. UUs are a tiny minority in this country, but like Quakers, we have had impact far beyond our numbers. With about 200,000 people, including children, we're 2/3 of 1/10 of 1% of the general population. In North Texas, the numbers are lower, less than half that 1/10, a little over 3,000 people. If we were at the national average, it would be closer to 5,000. But if we had Tulsa's numbers, I know Tulsa captured lightning in a bottle decades ago, but if we had Tulsa's numbers, there would be 250 just in the Sherman-Denison area. There would be close to 20,000 UUs in North Texas. So don't tell me we can't grow in the conservative areas. I am not for growth just for growth's sake, but to be big, but to strengthen our message and to strengthen our work. We can't necessarily duplicate what happened in Tulsa, but if we were anywhere close to that size, we could better afford to teach all at different locations, to build housing for homeless youth, and to let more people know of our good news, people who could use a spiritual compass. Are you in favor? Finally, I'll tell you another idea. This is not your church. This is the church of the people who started this congregation. This is the church of Robert Rabel, who led First Dallas and helped found so many congregations decades ago. This is the church of Daniel Christian Limbaugh and others who founded the church in Dallas 120 some years ago. This is the church of James Billings and Mary Ward Billings, leaders of the Universalist Church in Texas in the 1890s. This is the church of Theodore Clapp and others, the minister in New Orleans 150 years ago. This is the church of Quillen Shin, the Universalist minister who founded congregations all over the South. 1 3-year period, he did 15,000 miles on horseback. This is the church of our ancestors. We hold it in trust for generations yet to come, and we safeguard it for them. And as Theodore Parker said, let ours be a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Blessed be.
Far too often, we are forced to confront the terrible things that people do to each other. When these things happen, all we can do is come together in places like this church to remind ourselves there's still hope, there's still love, there are still good-hearted people who can look unblinking into the storm and continue to believe a calm, bright morning will come. This community is a refuge where we can keep the ember of hope alive when all the world seems intent on losing it. And then we can use our little ember to light a beacon for the rest of the world. Our offerings each week sustain this community so we can share our small embers to light a dark world. Please give generously so that we can all together help spread the light. We thank Elena Westbrook for her words on giving. The bowl or computer donation awaits. I want to invite you to stand in body or spirit for a benediction and remain standing for extinguishing the chalice. Our benediction this morning is A Power at Work in the Universe by Tom Shade. My friends, there is a power at work in the universe. It works through human hands, but it was not made by human hands. It is a creative, sustaining, and transforming power. And we can trust that power with our lives and with our ministries. It will sustain us whenever we take a stand on the side of love, whenever we take a stand for peace and justice, whenever we take a risk. Trust in that power. We are together held by that power. Please join me in saying the words to extinguish our chalice. The words are in the morning program. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the power of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. Worship is completed. Now may our service begin.